And so it's my very great pleasure to introduce our speaker for this evening, Luella Hewson. She has been a nurse for 40 years, and she retired about 5 years ago. And then she has been pursuing her passion for natural healing. And so Luella is here tonight to bring us this information with her expertise. Thank you, Luella.
Hello, just testing my mic. Is it okay? Okay. Well, in my 40 plus years of nursing in an active treatment setting, the focus is on healing, restoring health, but as was mentioned, my greater interest has always been in helping people maintain their health. But why is it important to safeguard our health? I would suggest, number one, it is out of respect to God. He's given us an incredible gift in saving us from eternal destruction and sending His Spirit to live in us. Number two, I would suggest, is out of gratitude to God. If we examine the intricacies of our bodies and the fine-tuning that our bodies have, the way God designed our bodies, we could spend an enormous amount of time trying to find out precisely how our body systems work. And I would suggest out of gratitude to God is our second reason. Number three, because of our current world circumstances. Powerful organizations are bent on reducing world population, and money-hungry organizations are bent on controlling even our healthcare system. Conversations that would have been out of the question when I started nursing 40 years ago in 1977 are commonplace on wards now. Who has value? Who has enough value for us to treat them? Even more worrisome is the MAID, the Medical Assistance in Dying Act, Bill C-7. That has been extended even to include persons whose deaths are not reasonably foreseeable and people with mental illness. Now that clause has been put on hold, but only for 3 years. Reason number 4, the goal is to have the strength, the mental clarity, and the ability to do the work which God has called us to until He returns or calls us home. And here is my inspiration for being able to pass on a legacy of faith to another generation. You can take a moment just to bring to mind your own personal motivation. The goal is to be in this happy condition. The doctor is saying, you have a rare condition called good health. Frankly, I'm not sure how to treat it. Just a few disclaimers. Natural remedies work gently on body systems. Although some work within minutes or hours, a lot of them take weeks, sometimes even months, to really kick into effect. Therefore, patience is often required. I think I went ahead. I am both excited and reluctant to share this knowledge. Excited because I've seen in others and experienced for myself the effectiveness of many of these remedies. However, these remedies can often be misunderstood, misapplied, misused sometimes, and sometimes simply not given enough time to work. So just as long as we keep that in mind, you will be able to sort out whether some of these remedies might be for you. What information will be covered tonight? First, some general practices to optimize your health, and then a few options to address some common health concerns. And then we'll go on to just learn about a couple of supplements that I may have already referred to in earlier segments. General practices to optimize your health. These are basically lifestyle factors. And why take the time to review them again? Because we have good intentions, but we often fail to follow through. So use the section as a checklist for yourself. Remember this: genetics may load the gun, but it is lifestyle that pulls the trigger. Nutrition is the key to good health, and we've heard that so often. However, there's so many conflicting there's a lot of conflicting information available, and we're bombarded by that, especially on the internet. I will just make a few suggestions for you to consider when planning a nutritious diet. There are many camps that promote cutting out certain foods or certain food groups. Be very conscious of the fact that as soon as you cut out a whole food group, you are likely to cut out an important nutrient that is rarely found in sufficient quantities in the remaining foods in the diet. Some of the highly promoted diets do work well for some people, but that does not mean that they are good for all. Let's not make this mistake. Which celebrities should I follow to get the best medical advice? So my recommendations are these. Try to incorporate foods from all food groups unless you have good reason to cut out a specific group. There's a time and a place for therapeutic diets for specific purposes and to heal specific issues, but a diet that cuts out a certain food group should be temporary. And be aware that if you do cut out a certain food group for a while, your body will stop producing the enzymes that are needed to digest that food and absorb that food, use that food in your body. Now, it is possible to reincorporate that food simply by introducing it again in small quantities, but at regular intervals, so your body can again get used to the challenge of needing to digest that food. Don't be afraid to eat high-quality protein. There's a lot of messages again about ideal diets. The creator of our body knows what our body needs. Genesis 3 verse 9 talks about foods both from the plant and the animal kingdom. And Leviticus goes into a great deal of detail about the type of food that is best to eat. Animal protein is a complete protein with all of the amino acids, and they are all in the right ratio. Now, if you want to be on a vegetarian diet, you can get complete proteins, but it usually means that you have to combine different foods. And then, for example, baked beans along with a whole wheat bread, then you will get a complete protein. But it is difficult to know all those little details that you have to follow in order to make that happen. And for the amount of food that you would need to eat to equal the protein of a small piece of meat, 3 cups of quinoa, for example. Now, I'll challenge any of you to eat 3 cups of quinoa in one sitting. Incorporate omega-3 rich foods regularly, or consider taking an omega-3 supplement, because few of us really have those foods in our diet on a regular basis. And don't avoid healthy fats in the right proportions. Our brains are very often starved of this vital food group, especially in low-fat diets. And there's fascinating information coming out now about supplementing people with Alzheimer's, giving them 1 to 2 tablespoons of coconut oil per day, and seeing the Alzheimer's symptoms reversing in them. It is quite striking. I will mention a book later on that talks about foods and supplements that maintain brain health. As much as possible, cut out refined sugar and products made of white flour. That is not a food group. Those are simply foods stripped of all nutrients, often leading to diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, higher risk of cancer, and along with that, I should include the prepackaged, highly preserved foods. Consider supplements for areas of deficiency in our diet. What our doctors will typically tell us is if you're eating a well-balanced diet, you won't need supplements. However, the fact is that because our soils are becoming nutrient depleted, the food that we find on our shelves in the store is 30 to 50% less nutrient dense than it was 100 to 150 years ago. So the upcoming talk about growing nutrient dense food will be, I think, a very important one to attend. Also, this would cover the organic food in the store as well. Yes, it is pesticide-free, herbicide-free, however, it's still grown in nutrient-depleted soils. The other consideration about whether you should take supplements is, I mentioned the omega-3s you probably aren't getting on a regular basis. How about vitamin D? There's only a scant amount of vitamin D in our foods. In wintertime, here in Canada, we aren't exposed to the sun. In summertime, we slather on the sunscreen, and sunscreen will prevent your skin from producing that vitamin D. Just a fun fact, individuals who consume dark chocolate regularly can experience as much as 50% reduction in risk of dying from heart disease. Yes. I've got a recipe for that. You use maple syrup, and you actually only need a small amount of maple syrup. Yeah. Hydration. So important. Every cell in your body is dependent on water for proper functioning. So let's look at 10 specific reasons to drink the recommended 8-ounce glasses of water per day. And make sure that's unchlorinated, unfluorinated water. I'll go into detail about that later. Number 1, improved brain performance. Even mild dehydration, as little as 2% fluid loss, can affect your memory, your mood, your concentration, and even your reaction time. Digestion is improved. Your body needs water in order to digest foods properly. Mineral water is especially beneficial, and I'll go into a little more detail on that later. You have more energy. Dehydration can slow down your circulation, slow down the oxygen that reaches your brain, slow down the oxygen that reaches your muscles, your body in general. And all of that can make you feel tired, sluggish, and less focused. It helps with weight loss, weight management, because not only will it give you a feeling of some fullness between meals. It can help boost your metabolism. Decreased joint pain. You have less lubrication if you're dehydrated between your bones, within your joints, and also the cushion between your joints shrinks if you're dehydrated. You have better temperature regulation. You'll have less problems with the heat in summer, and you'll actually also be a little warmer in winter. Kidney stone prevention. Plus, it will help you avoid urinary tract infections because it can flush the harmful bacteria from your bladder. A healthier heart. Your heart is made up largely of water. Your blood is made up largely of water. And as we talked about, it becomes concentrated. But what happens then is the electrolyte balance also shifts. And your heart, the signal for your heart to beat at a regular pace, it is dependent on those electrolytes. You have improved detoxification and fewer headaches. Note that mineral water is especially beneficial, not only for digestion, but also for keeping your proper balance of fluids and electrolytes in all of your body cells. What happens when you drink a lot of water without enough electrolytes is the water goes through your body. It will flush your bladder, but you'll be flushing it out of your system, and it's not making its way into the cells. Therefore, your metabolism is sluggish. But if you have electrolytes in the water that you're drinking, it will actually penetrate into the cells and actually do its work throughout the body. The simple way to create mineral water for yourself rather than buying the expensive stuff is take a grain of Celtic sea salt with each glass of water that you drink. Celtic sea salt has 90-some minerals in it. If you have a hard time accessing that, although I think our local health food store does carry Celtic sea salt, you can use the pink Himalayan salt. It's got 60-some minerals in it. So it's definitely better than the table salt. But be aware that the sea salt that's sold in the grocery stores, if it's white, it's probably got all the minerals processed out of it. Okay, what about using other drinks to hydrate? Let's talk about the caffeine in tea and coffee, because caffeine will also dehydrate. Rather than giving you fluid to work with in your body, it is actually pulling fluid, extra fluid, out of your body. So you can't depend on it to hydrate. Herbal tea, of course, is great. 0 milligrams of caffeine. Decaf tea, 5 milligrams. White tea would be 10 milligrams. So that's still not too bad. Green tea goes up to 20 milligrams. Then oolong tea has 30, black tea 50. Anybody drink yerba mate? Okay. 80 milligrams plus. Sorry about that, but coffee, 135 milligrams. Now, especially with the yerba mate and the coffee, you can have strong brews which go even much, much higher than that. So it's not necessarily bad to drink those, but make sure that you drink an extra glass of water to make up for the dehydration that you're causing by drinking the caffeinated beverages. So what about juice and sports drinks? They're pretty good, although the acid in juice may dehydrate a little bit. But the problem with these is the amount of sugar. Milk is excellent concentration of electrolytes that help balance the fluid, but the high quality of protein in milk also makes it an ideal post-exercise drink so that you kickstart that muscle repair needed after exercising. Rehydration drinks can replace lost fluids and electrolytes, but they're expensive. So using the Celtic salt or even making a proper rehydration drink, the handouts have a recipe in them. Average percentage of water in a person's body is about 60%, can vary from 45 to 75%. And the plasma, the liquid portion of your blood, is actually 90% water. Exercise. Refusing to go to the gym is not the same thing as resistance training. Okay, what is included in a well-balanced exercise program? It needs to fit your specific needs, but it also needs to take into consideration your current fitness level. So if you need help getting started with a fitness program, if you haven't been in one, you might want to consult with a specialist. But every good fitness program has to include at least these three things: cardiovascular movement to burn calories, exercise build heart muscle, and improve your mood. Then you need strength training to build muscles and bones, and stretching to improve flexibilities and to prevent injuries. Sleep and rest. Why belabor this topic? Simply because many of us don't get enough sleep, and sleep is essential to allow your body and your mind to recharge. You want to be refreshed and alert when you wake up, and adequate sleep is needed to restore the chemical balance in your body. I'll be belaboring that from beginning to end this evening, the chemical balance in our body. It helps the body maintain healthy with reduced risk of heart disease, stroke, decrease the inflammation in your body, and improves your immune function. Helps your brain function properly, and can improve your ability to concentrate, think clearly, and process memories. So if you've got difficulty remembering things, if you're getting poor sleep, that might be the problem. I will mention this probably twice in my presentation today. My best tip for a great sleep is within the first hour of waking up, expose yourself to bright sunlight, bright daylight. If possible, go outside, look at the bright horizon, not at the sun, but in wintertime or when you can't go outside, use a bright daylight lamp. We all know that hygiene is essential for good health. I'm sure you know the principles of hygiene, so let's move on to what to exclude from your life. Let's talk about managing stress. Now, stress can be positive, keeps you alert and motivated, can improve your mood, and help you perform your best. But it's that chronic and prolonged stress where the cortisol and the adrenaline keep flowing through our body, where we can develop an increase in heart rate, in blood pressure, predisposing us to heart attacks or strokes, Respiratory symptoms such as shortness of breath, rapid uncontrolled breathing, even asthma attacks, stomach pain, and a whole range of digestive issues. And then there's muscle tension, leading to pain, particularly in the back, shoulders, neck. So how to manage excessive stress? Get more physical activity. Again, a well-balanced diet helps you manage stress as well. Cut down on phone use, screen time, set boundaries, learn to say no. Avoid procrastination. This is a great one. Spend time in nature. And magnesium depletes under stress. So if you're under continued stress for a long time, you might consider a supplement in this area. You might consider supplementing magnesium. Now I'll talk about something else later on that also uses up a lot of magnesium in our bodies. So some of my best tips would be these. Release yourself from unproductive pursuits. Release without regret what you can no longer have. Many of us have losses in our life that are unavoidable. We can't get back what we've lost. Just release it. Maintain healthy relationships with family and friends. And sometimes we need to also release toxic relationships in our lives. Now, I'm not talking about cutting out people that can benefit from your involvement in your lives, but some of us have had people that just provided a toxic environment in our lives. The other thing is to nurture spiritual health. Although that's not the focus of this evening, spiritual health definitely impacts our physical bodies as well. But apart from that byproduct, don't forget that a right relationship with God and an understanding of His Word must always have first priority in our lives. Okay, on to next section, common health concerns. Here the patient is talking to the doctor. You have to learn about thousands of diseases, but I only have to focus on fixing what's wrong with me. Now, which one of us do you think is the expert? And believe me, I've had a couple of patients when I was a nurse who definitely knew more about his or her specific condition than the healthcare providers around them, because they had issues that were not as commonplace as your common cold, and they'd done a lot of research. They sometimes put the medical community to shame with what they knew. But you can become an expert in how your body functions and learn what is best for your body as well. Okay, let's talk about respiratory illnesses. The best defense that we have against any respiratory infection, whether it's caused by a virus or a bacteria, is to make sure that we have a healthy immune system. And we've already covered basic health practices to keep us healthy. But let's just go through a quick list of what is especially beneficial for respiratory illnesses. Get enough sleep, eat adequate plant foods, because plants have all those antioxidants that decrease inflammation, and the fibers that the good bacteria in your gut feed on that improve your immune system. So yogurt, kefir, fermented vegetables, provide an excellent boost to that beneficial gut bacteria. And also, plants are your rich source of vitamin C. Eat healthy fats. Chronic inflammation suppresses the immune system, and your healthy fats, like the omega-3 fatty acids, fight that inflammation. Limit the added sugars. Aside from the obesity, let's look at why sugars suppress the immune system, why it's so important to cut them out, especially if you're fighting an infection. And our bodies have receptors. Think of them as storage units that hold on to certain chemicals that those cells need. The receptors that latch onto sugar are the very same receptors that vitamin C latches onto. So if your body cell receptors are full of sugar, the vitamin C just spills out of your body, and it will have no effect. Oh, I guess I should have gone through that. Exercise can be helpful, although prolonged, intense exercise can suppress your immune system. Mild, reasonable exercise can give it a boost. We already talked about hydrating and managing stress levels, and you may want to use some natural remedies. I've got a list for respiratory illnesses here. I've got category 1, which are common nutrients, and then I've got some in another category that will help with some of the symptoms. So the nutrients that your body really needs during respiratory infections are vitamin C, the antioxidant, vitamin D3. That supports the immune system because it stimulates T cell production. So that aids the response, especially to viral infections. I'd like to mention here, when taking a vitamin D supplement, it is also important to take a vitamin K, MK7 supplement, because your calcium in your body that is, I'm not explaining this well, because vitamin D improves the absorption of calcium. With a lot of calcium in your body, you might also be prone to kidney stones, to gallstones, to extra plaque in your blood vessels. However, the vitamin K2 will make sure that the calcium goes into your skeleton, into your teeth, so you have strong bones and teeth. So if you were taking extra vitamin D, it's really important to take the vitamin K as well. Zinc is beneficial, elderberry is beneficial. All of these stimulate your immune system. Garlic boosts the number of T cells in your body as well. And then I have a second category, colostrum. Many of you know that that's the first milk after the birth. Colostrum that you buy in the store in capsule form is bovine from cows. It actually not only contains a lot of vitamins and minerals, but actual boy, my mouth is dry, excuse me. Immunoglobulins. It's got about 4 immunoglobulins, IgG1, IgG2, IgA, and IgM, I believe. And for me, taking 2 to 3 caps on the first sign of a cold, the cold is just wiped out. Then there is NAC, N-acetylcysteine. It can help relieve symptoms of respiratory conditions by acting not only as an oxidant, but also as an expectorant, helping loosen that mucus. Then there's quercetin or bromelain with quercetin. Very often that is sold in a capsule together. Quercetin will boost immunity, and bromelain is effective in reducing the nasal mucosal inflammation. And my favorite sore throat remedy, equal parts of honey and apple cider vinegar. Both honey and apple cider vinegar act as an antibacterial, antifungal, and the apple cider vinegar raising the pH in the tissues will help reduce the proliferation of bacteria. But you know that this is very effective when your teenager complains bitterly about this horrible taste that you're making them drink, but the next time a cold comes around, they're in the kitchen quietly mixing up their own remedy. I'm waiting to see how many likes my diagnosis gets before I share it with you. Okay, a note on COVID. Since the current strains of COVID do not cause severe illness in most people, I won't go into specifics on treatment. However, if anyone has specific concerns, they might want to investigate the services of the Wellness Company. They sell kits for the treatment of COVID, as well as formulations to treat spike proteins in the body, which is a concern if you have long COVID or if you've been vaccinated. You can also access a medical provider online to treat your illnesses and obtain prescriptions. The company was established to provide treatment for patients experiencing difficulty in receiving adequate treatment in the regular medical system, and it links persons with doctors and medical providers outside the influence of big pharma. Going on to cardiovascular disease, I probably can't add much to what is commonly known. However, just a quick checklist for yourself. Check your diet, watch your weight, catch some sun rays. The vitamin D in our body actually helps to reduce your blood pressure, and people with low levels of vitamin D are often more prone to heart attacks and stroke. Exercise, hydrate, 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 get adequate sleep, minimize stress, and reduce toxic load. Oh, let's talk about pain. Just some general principles of pain management. What effect do painkillers and anti-inflammatories such as Tylenol and ibuprofen have on our bodies? Tylenol, when overused, can contribute to severe liver failure and even death. Now, before 2011, the FDA recommended doses up to 4,000 milligrams or 4 grams per day. That would be 8 extra strength Tylenol per day. But in 2011, they reduced that to 6 extra strength Tylenol per day. A lot of people are still under the impression that it's okay to take up to 8 per day. And the overuse of ibuprofen can affect the protective mucus coating that we have in our stomachs, so that leads to gastritis, possible stomach ulcers, and it also can affect your kidneys. So if you take either of these medications long-term or overuse them, you might want to look at some other methods of controlling pain. Turmeric and serapeptase work for me, and I've got them listed in your handouts, and hopefully there will be time to talk about them a little later as well. What about autoimmune conditions? I've heard some very positive outcomes for multiple sclerosis, lupus, and basically any autoimmune disease with LDN, which is low-dose naltrexone. You actually take very small amounts, like between 1.5 to 5 milligrams of naltrexone, which is actually produced in 50 milligram tablets. I wish we had time to go into detail on this because the way it works is fascinating. But for anybody who does want to follow up and look into this further, I've got 2 websites listed there, and I believe they're also in the handouts. The doctor says to the bee, "Bad news, you're allergic to pollen." Allergies are no laughing matter, though, for anybody who has them. It's a challenge to identify them and challenge to avoid contact with them, and people who don't have allergies tend to not understand how distressing this condition can be. Just a few tips for people who have the sinus reactions of congestion, the vitamin C, D, omega-3, basically everything that I mentioned for respiratory infections also help, along with the quercetin and bromelain, and stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is extremely effective. However, a warning, it is also a very, very potent diuretic, so you will dry out and you will need to hydrate. Lyme disease, caused by the bacteria that's transferred by the deer tick, and West Nile virus, mosquito-borne infection. If you are interested in a natural bug repellent to avoid DEET exposure, there's a recipe in your handouts for that as well. Thyroid function. Now, it was impossible not to note when I first moved onto the rehab unit after working in active treatment for so many years, and I suddenly had a large portion of my patients were geriatric, older people. Almost all of them were on thyroid medication. And we do know that our North American diet does not have an adequate amount of iodine in it. But we run into a similar problem with iodine that we run into if we have a lot of sugar in our diet. Our receptors for iodine in our body are the very same receptors that your body has for all the halogens, which is the chloride, chlorine, fluoride, bromine. So we are exposed to the chloride and the fluoride in our water systems. So if at all possible, try to avoid water with chloride and fluoride in it. Going on to digestive health issues, just talk about a couple of special situations. What if you have no gallbladder? Then you have decreased ability to digest fat because the timed fashion of the release of bile into your system is no longer there. It might be helpful to take a bile supplement just prior to a meal. If you've had recent antibiotics, I would recommend beginning probiotics at the same time you start your antibiotic, but you do have to space the doses, separate them by 2 to 3 hours. take your antibiotic first thing in the morning, 2 to 3 hours later, you take a probiotic, and then you have another space of a couple of hours before your next antibiotic is due, and so on. Now, this is an interesting one. If you are blood type A and or AB, you probably have a genetically inherited challenge in digesting protein. Some people find simply taking apple cider vinegar does the trick for them. Just some apple cider vinegar in water along with your meal. Or you could go to digestive enzymes, which are also available. Now, we talked about how important sleep is. Insomnia is very common. Try not to lose any sleep over it. More easily said than done, right? Okay. Establish a realistic bedtime, preferably 1 to 2 hours before midnight. I wish I had time to go into the stages of sleep and why this actually works, but the hours before midnight are when your body does most of its chemical rebalancing. The old saying of 1 hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 after is actually, it appears to be true. But that doesn't mean that many people follow that advice, right? Maintain comfortable temperature settings and low light levels. Consider a screen ban on television, cell phones, and other electronics in the bedroom. Skip caffeine and large meals the last couple of hours before bedtime, and exercise during the day. That can help you wind down at night. But as I said before, my best tip is this. Within the first hour of waking, expose yourself to bright daylight outside if possible. And if not, especially during the short winter days, use a daylight lamp. Some people call it a SAD lamp for seasonal affective disorder. If you go outside, 10 minutes is probably adequate. If you use a lamp inside the house, buy one that has, I think it's 10,000 lux, and use it for at least 30 minutes. This will help set your time clock. We all know that we have a 24-hour time clock, right? Actually, our natural cycle is a little longer than 24 hours. So we run into a problem. Unless we fine-tune that time clock each morning, we get sleepy a little later and a little later and a little later, and then our bedtime drifts to a later hour and a later time and a later time. Well, what happens? Most of us have to get up at a certain time of day, and so we're left with sleep deprivation. Okay, brain health and mental alertness. In general, all the disciplines we've discussed also contribute to mental alertness. With age, with hormonal changes and stress, some people struggle with mental decline. We can do a lot to prevent that mental decline with all those basics like good nutrition, the exercise, good sleep practices, etc. But there are specific nutrients that ward off mental decline as well, such as the B vitamins, beetroot, vitamin C, chocolate, cinnamon, coconut oil, turmeric. The list goes on and is extensive. The handout does have that a book listed. The name and the book is listed along with its ISBN number for brain health supplements. mental and emotional health. Now, I'm not talking about mental clarity here, but the anxiety and the depression, the low motivation for daily tasks. First of all, I think it's so important that our daily time spent in the Bible, meditating on the Word of God, spending time in prayer, memorizing verses that encourage you, reading the Psalms. It's no wonder the Quakers called the Psalms the medicine chest for the soul. Thank you. But when considering this topic, we also have to acknowledge that chemical imbalances in the body impact our thought patterns as well as our emotional responses. And the pharmaceutical meds that doctors often order have the very opposite of the intended effect. So I actually came across information, this little tip that I gave you about exposing yourself to bright sunlight first thing in the morning actually is supposed to be as effective as Prozac is. But if you're interested in other supplements, I looked through the literature and found a list of ashwagandha, vitamin B12, omega-3 fats, probiotics. So I don't know how effective those are, but I was pretty impressed with this claim that the bright sunlight is as effective as Prozac. So let's go into some of the list of the health supplements that you might want to look into. It's important to do your own research before starting these natural remedies to make sure that it is right for you. You might even want to see a functional health practitioner or a natural medicine doctor if you're not familiar with these kinds of remedies. Okay. I'd like to just point out that the RDA, or recommended daily allowances that are normally listed, are the amount of vitamin or nutrient that is necessary to keep you from going downhill very quickly to an obvious disease. But to maintain optimum health, the natural health practitioners will recommend a much higher amount, and that's why they are hoping to give you your best health, not a barely getting by, barely keeping you out of the coffin kind of recommendation. Next, look for vitamins that come from a natural source rather than synthetically manufactured. Try to avoid ones that have fillers, additives, and preservatives. And thirdly, I would recommend that you take these vitamins only 5 days a week instead of a full 7 days a week. Vitamins will come in certain number of milligrams. If your body is used to getting, I'm getting 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day, it gets lazy. To make sure that your body uses your nutrients efficiently, take 2 days off during the week. Okay, vitamin C. Okay. Vitamin C. We already talked about that, supporting immune health, heart health, and iron absorption is another important one. There are more reasons listed in your handout. Vitamin C is a water-soluble vitamin. So if you take a large dose of 1,000 milligrams, it will flush through your body. You'll hear a lot of doctors also say, oh, they just flush out of your body. One of the reasons is that the water-soluble vitamins will do that unless you take a time release capsule. So in vitamin C, that is an important consideration. Vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, we already talked about it boosting bone health because it draws the calcium in, boosting your immune health, enhancing your mental health. And I also mentioned the importance of taking the vitamin K along with that, right? So that you have the calcium that is now being absorbed into your body going to the right places. Then the vitamin K, simply because the vitamin K will do other things besides regulate the use of calcium. It also protects the cardiovascular system because it's preventing the plaque buildup. Vitamin E, it balances your cholesterol, fights free radicals. A special consideration there is it's important to take a natural form of vitamin E because the synthetic form will, in some people, have the exact opposite effect in their bodies. So especially for vitamin E, make sure that you're looking for a natural form. Vitamin E will also slow blood clotting. So if you're going in for surgery, that would be a special consideration, or if you're on medications to lower your blood clotting levels, you probably shouldn't be taking vitamin E. Then there's the magnesium for regulating your blood pressure, keeping your bones strong. If you're under a lot of stress, or if you're taking vitamin D, it would be a good idea to take some magnesium. There are just so many varieties of magnesium. They come in like magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, magnesium sulfate, Epsom salts, and there's magnesium threonate that now crosses the blood-brain barrier, so that for people who have difficulty sleeping, some people take magnesium threonate. So these different forms of magnesium work slightly differently in your body, and I've listed them. I've given a little bit of an idea about what the different ones of them do before you go to the store, so you have an idea. Omega-3, great for heart health, mental disorders, cognitive decline, reduces inflammation, especially in infancy and childhood. I don't think in the past we really realized how important omega-3 was for brain development and also for eye development. Coenzyme Q10 or ubiquinol. Coenzyme Q10 is a vitamin-like substance that our body manufactures by itself. However, our bodies decline in its ability to manufacture coenzyme Q10, and it also declines in ability to convert it to the active form that our bodies can actually use as we age. So this is an antioxidant that is very useful for people with heart conditions. I've taken it for many years simply because I've got Raynaud's disease, always had cold hands. It did wonders to improve circulation to my hands. One of the doctors I used to work with told me that he'd have to amputate my hands before long because my circulation to them was so poor. After I started a combination of the coenzyme Q10, the vitamin E, and ginkgo biloba, I had relatively few issues. So coenzyme Q10 is an anti-aging nutrient, I would say. And if you're over the age of 40, 45, I would recommend ubiquinol instead. Then there's NAC, N-acetylcysteine. Talked about that a little bit before about how it can help for respiratory illnesses. However, its antioxidant effects are helpful for many different conditions in the body. Plus, it helps form glutathione. You've probably heard about glutathione from many sources, and it's one of the things that helps our mitochondria perform properly in metabolism. So it might be helpful for weight management as well. We already talked about the quercetin and bromelain and its effects for respiratory conditions. Oh, I'm forgetting to go ahead. And then I mentioned turmeric as well for pain. 2 turmeric capsules work as well for me as a Tylenol for pain control. And in that case, it kicks in 20 minutes for myself. It fights inflammation, so it works as a natural pain reliever and can slow or prevent blood clots. Serrapeptase is an enzyme that's produced by the silkworm. It helps treat pain and inflammation and lowers risk for plaque forming in your blood vessels. It also promotes wound healing. It fights bacteria. It has amazing effects. I started using it for a frozen shoulder. I was in the process of 6 months into the first year of my shoulder going into the freezing phase. Usually after that, you have a year where you're in the frozen phase, and then you have another year after that where you're in the thawing phase. Well, I was about 6 months into the first phase and wasn't making much progress with my physiotherapy. When I started taking serrapeptase 2 weeks following that, I was discharged by my physiotherapist, and I had almost full range of motion at that point. It worked wonders for me for a frozen shoulder. For my friend, it dissolved her kidney stones. I've recommended it to a number of people who have all been very happy with what it has done for them if they've been in need of it. Not everybody obviously needs it. Now, serrapeptase is often used for pain relief, also for support for the respiratory system. Nattokinase is kind of a cousin to serrapeptase, and it's more used for people for a healthy cardiovascular system. Resveratrol, you probably are familiar with that to some degree from grape seeds, right? Grapeseed oil for heart health. Zinc enhances the immune system. Lutein for eye health. And then there's kaolin clay and bentonite clay. I've listed them as ingredients in some of my recipes. It is actually sold in a powder. It's a clay sold in a powder. It has amazing ability to absorb toxins out of the body, so some people take it internally if they're having diarrhea. Some people use it to treat stomach ulcers, I believe. I mainly use it for insect bites. It's amazing. Just mix with a little bit of water, put it on your insect bite, pulls the venom out of your out of that area, and the swelling goes away, the itching goes away, pain goes away. But if you're going to use, especially if you're going to use it internally, make sure that you use the food grade clay. And I've listed the different properties of kaolin as opposed to the bentonite clay here so that you can make a choice between the two. Then of course there's aloe vera, which you can grow yourself and use the pulp both internally and especially on things like rashes and sunburn. I've got a picture here of Nature's Aid. It is basically an aloe vera product for dry skin itching after sun care, insect bites. And along with aloe vera, it has some tea tree oil, witch hazel, vitamin E, rosemary. Also really great for insect bites. Then I've used this quite a bit. Now this is not grape seed, this is grapefruit seed extract. It has amazing ability to inhibit growth of bacteria, also viral strains, parasites, and fungus or yeast infections. It can be used for practically any infection in the body or topically as well. It's even effective against antibiotic-resistant strains such as MRSA and vancomycin-resistant strains. Beware that it is extremely concentrated and must always be diluted. One bottle will last a long time because you'll be literally only using a couple of drops. There is colloidal silver. Colloidal silver has been regarded as an effective antibiotic for centuries. I would not recommend the homemade version though. Then there is calendula. Calendula is a flower in the marigold family, and it has antifungal, antibacterial, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory effects. Our daughter has been using this. The coconut-infused oil for a diaper rash cream with excellent results. And I use it for just about anything. Garlic has been used to fight antibacterial or to fight bacterial and parasitic infections. Clove extract, ginger, echinacea, but they're all listed in here. You can read up on them. Let's see, I don't think I have anything further to add, except that the recipes that you'll find in the first section of your handout are for toothpaste, mouthwash, the nasal rinse, and the calendula-infused ointments, and the natural bug repellent. So, before you all feel like that, I'll thank you for your attention. And I'm hoping that there was something that you heard tonight that you can perhaps incorporate into your lives that will give you good health.